Hi everyone, it's Niamh here and welcome to my art journaling channel. Today we're going to be doing a simple collaged background and working in my Dina Wakley journal. So this is a technique I do when I really don't have any ideas of what I'm doing at all, which is basically go to my collage stash, which is usually gel prints, which is what I've got here. These are old recipes I found somewhere that are typed up on really thin paper, vintage text, bits of collage tissues that I've sort of torn up and haven't used in other bits and pieces, offcuts of the collage collective, anything I can get my hands on basically. It's no pressure, no thinking about it, it's just what I've got around. Obviously I had an awful lot of gel prints sitting around. This is from a recent project I did. So I'm just gluing it down. Now I'm using gel medium to glue this down. These gel prints are actually on copy paper, and to be honest I probably should have used a thicker glue, so maybe the ultra thick gel medium to glue these down rather than the soft gel medium. It did work, but I did have to go back and just pop a little bit of glue over some extra pieces. But one way you can do it is what I'm doing now, is kind of adhere them down with, or bridge them over with some thinner tissues, and that will hold any loose pieces down, so you can be a little bit strategic about how you do it. When I've taught this with classes, it's a bit of you have to work out exactly how much gel medium you actually need. You'll notice I'm putting some at the bottom and then putting some on the top, but I'm dipping my paintbrush into the gel medium very much, and I'm spreading it out quite a lot. And when I spread out the bit at the bottom, I then use whatever's left on my brush over the top to seal it down. So sometimes when I teach in classes, people heap on so much gel medium and they find it takes ages for things to dry, and their pen stops working when they try and write over it. And the reason for that is the gel medium underneath what you've collaged down is still damp and it's still affecting the page on top. So it does need to be really, really thin coats that you're using. So you can always add more, but it's harder to take it away, I suppose, is the easiest way to think about that one. For people who've watched me do similar backgrounds to this in the past, a lot of times I will actually use watercolor paints over the top, which seems a bit funny because watercolor paints are obviously going to stay reactive, but I've found on matte gel medium I can actually get away with having some watercolor on there, because the gel medium does have a little bit of tooth, so it kind of keeps it on the page. But you can also do it with any medium. So I'm actually using acrylic paint here. Again, you will notice I'm brushing out really, really thin, so it's almost translucent. Then putting stencil over the top. I'm wiping way through, so I'm just getting this pattern work over the top. Now, the reason I do this is because it helps to tie the pages together. Even though it looks like I'm painting over all the collage that I've done, what happens is by rubbing the extra paint off, I'm still getting the collage peeping through, but I'm getting that green go across a few pieces of paper, and it's actually making sense of all those other pages in the background. It's sort of tinting them to make them look like they're supposed to be there. So you can do this with as many or as few as colours that you want. Again, I'm probably a bad example because I like to go over the top and have lots of stuff happening on my pages. You know, less is more. You can see from the page on the other side, that's from Dina Wakley's Collage Collective. She obviously adores white space, as do I. I think her pages look stunning. My page in comparison looks like, you know, there's nowhere for your eye to rest. But we're not finished yet. We're still halfway through. And in any artwork, there's always a stage you think, oh, have I ruined it? Is there too much? Is this getting too chaotic? There's ways to fix it, so don't panic. So what I'm doing now is, again, I'm going in with some stamping, and I'm using black archival ink, using archival ink is quite important because that means it's going to be permanent. It's not going to go anywhere when I put gel medium over the top, because I am going to add a collaged image over the top of this. So making sure whatever ink you're using is permanent, and I just use archival ink for all of my stamping these days, because I never know if my thing is going to be the last layer or not. If I used something like distress ink, that would move or water reactivate afterwards, so just be aware of that. Once I finished, I've just trimmed off the extra bits of paper I had around the edge, and now I'm looking for my collage face to put over the top. So I actually designed this page, or this project, for a live demonstration that I was doing for a picture to page craft show. The link is, if you go into the community tab on my Facebook channel, you can actually see the live recording of this class. So it ended up being slightly different. I actually ended up doing 2 pages in that journal session, so if you go back and have a look at that, you can see the live where I'm actually working in real time. Couldn't even think of the word. So you see me create 2 pages in 40 minutes, I think. With this, I've trimmed out my image. For those people who've watched this channel before, you know I really have a bugbear with the white halo that you can get around tissue images, so I always trim them off so they're as close to the edge as possible. I've again put some gel media in the background, and now I'm just using my brush, and I'm brushing outwards to get rid of any bumps, lumps that I have in the page, and making sure it's really adhered down and gone translucent. So through that collage tissue, even though now I've got over my collage some paint, some stenciling, and another collage tissue over the top, you can still see the background. So this is why layers are really, really important, and they give so much visual interest to your page, because you can, no matter what you do with them, you can still see through. Now I'm going in with some tissue words. So these are words that I've stamped out. They're from the Dina Wakley stamp sets. I've actually just stamped them out onto some scraps of tissue paper. So those little bits that I cut off, I keep, and I stamp quotes out onto them so I can then glue them down wherever I want. Now I could stamp straight on this page, but because I wanted to mix my words up a little bit, or you know, these all come in one line of text, so I wanted to sort of cut it up a little bit and just rearrange how I ordered it. You can do that with stamping. You just sort of cover over the other bits and pieces. You can use washi tape to cover over the bits you don't want to stamp at the time, but stamping onto tissue paper and gluing it down like this is just as easy as well. I'm just going in and making sure it's all dry, because I have got quite a lot of layers on it, and because that's quite a large piece of tissue, it's a little bit damp, so I just want to make sure everything is dry before I go back in and finish it off. So one of the things I always do with my images is I always put in the whites of the eyes, and I always put in the catch-alls. I tend to use my Posca paint pens to do that, and that just brings a real focus to the eyes on the page. They just suddenly pop out from the background and become the focal image. I also tend to put some colour in the irises. For some strange reason, I think it's because I am blue-eyed, that most of my figures have blue eyes. I did notice in a face drawing class once, that when I looked at the eyes they'd coloured in and the eyes of the person, they all tended to match. So I don't know if that's necessarily a thing or not, but I've noticed it with myself anyway. So this is a close-up of it. It really simple. All I've done is a collage in the background and put the image over the top and coloured in the eyes, but it can be really effective, and it's a great way to work in your journal when you don't really have an idea of what you're doing. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed what you watched, please think about hitting subscribe, and there's some other videos on the side there that you might enjoy watching as well. Until next time, bye for now.